Hi, hey, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by to my little corner of the internet. And in today's video, I'm going to be working on a sketchbook spread, and I'm just going to be drawing some flowers. I'm mostly going to be doing poppies, and this is all in preparation for a bit of a larger project. So if you're interested in drawing alongside me, I would love to see your work and hear about it in the comments. If you're interested in sharing, tag me on anything. If you share photos, I always love to know what people get up to whilst watching my video. And with that, let's just get into this because I have a lot of fun stuff to share about these poppy flowers, what I'm planning to do with this practice, and all of that fun stuff. So, I've mentioned it quite a few times that I have started my MFA program, and I'm on week 3 now, and I'm absolutely in love. This is the most praised and fulfilled I've ever felt in art education and art school, right? And because I'm new, most of my meetings have been to get to know me as an artist, to get to know my work, what I have done, what I'd be interested in doing, things of that nature. And so something that has been really fun is getting my different professors' opinions on floral photography, scientific illustration, character design, and then my interest in learning new mediums so that I can kind of just expand my understanding. And this one person I was talking to was really interested in seeing me just painting my kind of character portraits in a classical Rembrandt sort of style, very, very old traditional, and incorporating flowers where possible. And so I'm very interested and inspired by the idea of doing kind of a collage feeling painting where it's kind of the character portrait, the figure, with just really standout flowers, almost like they're kind of glued around it, but I paint those as well. And so it's been quite a while since I've sat down and filled a sketchbook spread with sketches and doodles of flowers that I've taken pictures of, and the poppies have recently bloomed and they're looking really lovely at the moment, and so it just felt appropriate to really get back into drawing flowers with those first and foremost. So I'm mostly just drawing from photos of the poppies in my yard, and frankly, I just have been really needing a kind of casual sit down like this recently. I think that I've gotten a little bit caught up in all of the kind of stuff that's been happening in life, and kind of caught up in the whirlwind that has been graduating and now is turning off my alarms, but is graduating, and then my brother's birthday's coming up, and doctor appointments, and then I had to take my brother's cat to the vet for a little bit of a wound. She's fine, by the way, perfectly fine. I don't think I shared pictures of her wearing the sock on her head, but I'll be posting that to my community tab very soon. So if you want to see a bobtail gray cat wearing socks with holes in them over their head like a little cap, check out my community tab after this, because it's really cute. But I just feel like I've gotten caught up in life and kind of caught up in what I feel like I need to be doing as an artist. My last 2 videos, maybe 3 videos, I've talked about some of the meta controversy, the Adobe controversy, and I think that while I am scared of AI as an artist, but while I'm not personally worried about where AI is going to put artists in the future, I think that I've been sitting with this type of dread and this feeling of defeat, knowing that people feel that they have I shouldn't say that, but these higher powers that own these platforms and these services that people rely on to market their art and create their art are basically just taking the piss out of everything and stealing from us. And when it comes to Adobe, I'm more artistically speaking horrified and offended when it comes to Instagram. While it is about artists, yes, I'm also very, very scared of the people who post photos of themselves, and I'm scared of the type of things that people might be sending in DMs that will get taken advantage of by meta scraping. There's a lot more victimization happening on Instagram, where I don't think it's just about artists, and while that's the sphere I'm in, I think that people don't take art particularly seriously and don't value us the same way they would other mediums and things like that. And that's to say, I think that if we kind of forced ourselves to say, hey, here are actually the bigger, more problematic implications of AI. What about this and these other kind of scary concepts? Maybe then we'd make more progress. So I'm hoping that there are people outside of the art community who are doing that advocacy for the protection of children and like personal privacy, data, stuff like that, because I am so entrenched in the art community and I don't really want to destroy my algorithms finding this on Instagram itself. And I've definitely found people discussing the horrors of the matter on YouTube, but YouTube is a platform where people talk about their opinions and kind of gain traction for it a lot more effectively. So, it's hard to see how that translates. So, with all of this negative stuff happening in the art community, and kind of just seeing that Etsy hasn't been taking care of its creators as well, or people talking about how their Etsy sales have horribly dropped, and being empathetic to the rest of artists, I feel like I've kind of been tense and not being particularly free with my own creative pursuits, and I don't think that I've been really kind of sitting down and actually creating art the way I want to. I feel like I've been more invested in looking at what's going on, and so it felt really good and really necessary to sit down and do a proper sketchbook session. It's been a while since I've sat down, and I've really just put on more or less real time. I've cut out the parts of the video where my hand's off screen for a long time and I'm doing something else or I walk away. I'm horrible about that. I have super high times in most of the video games I play because I'll just like walk away to go get a drink and get completely sidetracked and leave it running, right? And so stuff like that. So I cut out, stuff like that. I did eventually turn off my camera at a point because my cat was absolutely demanding my attention. So he will appear at some point. It'll be Jekyll, the orange short hair. I feel like it's always Jekyll, honestly. Jekyll and Fizzgig are the only two that feel the need to make recording videos almost impossible. But I feel like I needed to kind of come back to my roots a little bit in terms of YouTube as well. My typography video absolutely blew up. It's absolutely crazy. I have no idea why one of my worst filmed videos would get that much attention. And my 2 videos after that haven't been doing as good because of that boom. And so I want to really like reset my mentality about everything, sit down, and just do what I've been doing on YouTube for the longest time, which is sit down, sketchbook sessions where I just fill a spread and I talk about the stuff going on and kind of my thoughts behind the process. I talk regardless in all of my videos about similar things, but it's particularly getting to indulge in something that's very low stakes, for me at least, Flowers are actually kind of hard for me to draw. I'm not particularly great at it, but there's something so, I guess, low stress about sitting down, looking at pretty flowers, and just taking a ballpoint pen to paper. There's something very pleasant about just kind of getting it wrong and then fixing it and seeing if you can hatch over your mistakes, and just, I don't know, it's just something that is personally very, very casual and rewarding for me, at least, and something that I particularly find nice to indulge in. And so I do hope that you guys enjoy what will turn into a full spread of flowers, and I think I feel a lot better, and I'm very inspired for what I actually am going to be doing with this practice, which is, I'm hoping my first painting is either going to be, they're on 9x12 canvas sheets because I can't do the whole framed canvas thing. It drives me insane. But I'm hoping to do a painting, probably a self-portrait first, just so that I can get comfortable painting faces with gouache, tube gouache, instead of my usual paint pens that I actually am accustomed to. And so I don't feel like I'm under pressure to perform well, because like if I mess up and make myself super ugly and look bad, then that's fine. But I'll feel bad if I'm doing it to someone else's face, you know what I mean? So I'm probably going to do a self-portrait first, and then I want to draw some musicians that I'm very, very fond of the music of. Hi, Jekyll. I'm particularly, I feel like I draw a lot of fan art for video games and anime and things of that nature that I'm particularly fond of, but I don't really sit down and I appreciate the musicians whom I'm listening to a lot of the time when I'm creating my art. And so I've been watching some more music videos and I've been really enjoying them. And there are a few artists whose styles and kind of appearance kind of align with my OCs enough that I feel like it's good practice to also use them as a reference and get more familiar with their face shapes and how their hair falls and things like that. And so I'm hoping to do Dallin Weeks from I Don't Know How They Found Me, But They Did, and then Willwood from Willwood, and then Willwood and the Tapeworms. So that's what I'm planning on doing with this practice, is doing portraits of those two and then myself with flowers behind them, and really using it as practice in painting, right? Letting that run in the background for a minute, my art and my cat, because he's going to be blocking the screen for a minute anyway. I'm going to put a timestamp on screen, probably top right corner, saying when this bit talking about my Masters of Fine Arts will be over, but I've mentioned before that I want to do a little bit of I get a Master's in Fine Arts so you don't have to, because I do want to be a college art professor, and so I do need that master's degree to actually get the job I want, right? And so it's required education. But I am an out-of-state student, right? I am at home on the west coast of America, and I'm not going to be attending any of the in-person residency options just because of my health. And that's actually why I chose my university of choice, is Northern Vermont University, is how I see it listed on a lot of websites, but I always find it by just Googling Vermont State University. But it is not Vermont University of Fine Arts. It is not that one. But I am at this one in particular, one, because it had more kind of transparency about disability, but two, it very much looked like it had a fully online master's program. And I had an interview with the head of the department for that, and I kind of asked her questions. I made sure that I could do my entire education online before even submitting my application. I got to know her very well. She's absolutely lovely. Mary Martin is great. I love her. She'll be doing my critique for this past week and a half of art on Tuesday after this video goes up, so I'm very excited to get to talk with her again. It's been a minute. Aside from that, though, I submitted my portfolio. I was told by professors in my life at my undergrad that I was probably going to need to apply 3 or 4 times to even be considered as accepted. I was really set up emotionally for failure for the next year and a half of trying to get into my master's program, right? Was very much given the idea from the teachers who knew me that it was going to be a situation where I would be lucky to get accepted within the next year or two, and that I was really going to have to develop my portfolio and work really hard at creating a very good synthesized set of art with very minimal, next to no style variation, no sketches, only finished work to be considered, and it'd have to be all in one art style and all in one medium. So I was really set up to believe that my portfolio was not going to be accepted prior to meeting Mary Martin. I believe it's Dr. Martin, but she just addresses herself as Mary, but Dr. Martin. And I asked her, I was like, I was told not to put any photography in it, but would I be allowed to do photography still, even though it wouldn't be in my portfolio? I was like, yeah, I was told not to do character art if I want to do any photography, not to do self-portraits if I want to do character art, stuff like that. That I shouldn't do my character work and my disability work in my portfolio. And she really just said, we don't kind of follow that kind of belief system and kind of more elite kind of ideology about our master's program. And so meeting with her alone was a very big relief that I'd probably be accepted, because she was very down to earth. The other people I had met getting the contact for Mary Martin to kind of figure out if this was a good fit for me were all down to earth and reassured me that I've been given a very different perception of art school to what they were as an institution. And that was very comforting, because my biggest fear getting my MFA was really kind of the negative stigma around MFAs and working people too hard. Really, art school as a toxic environment where people don't really get to flourish and pursue their own creativity for a large portion of their degree, right? And so with that, I was very nervous, but being able to teach art and be able to go to a college, work at a college where I can start instituting the change I want to see for disabled students, particularly disabled students in the art, because I had such a bad undergrad experience as a disabled student, being able to institute those changes and have a platform and an authority as an educator where I can advocate for my students and advocate for myself effectively, where getting published in articles talking about the changes that need to be made can be helpful, so I can recruit other professors to my cause and my belief of a more equitable education system. All of that is stuff that's very morally important to me, because education in a lot of ways has hurt me and kind of put me down as someone with a chronic illness, and it's something that not everybody will have the desire to push past, right? And so being able to have that educator kind of capacity where I can be accommodating of students even when other teachers aren't, even when the disability services isn't helping the way mine kind of didn't, that's something that's very morally and emotionally important to me, because I've had really good teachers that have changed my life and shown me what compassion within education looks like, and equally so I've had teachers where my peers wrote multi-page complaints against them, and them being just a bad professor towards the able-bodied students, let alone me, who he ignored when I asked for aid with my accommodations. But he responded to every other email I sent within 10 minutes, even on Sundays. But every email about disability went completely unanswered, ever. But everything else answered. Class, it was ignored. So, I've had bad experiences. And I think having those 1 or 2 excellent teachers in your life that show you that you're worth it and offer you that compassion are important, able-bodied or disabled, right? Having those teachers who really show you that you are valuable and your thoughts and your input matter and that you have a valuable voice and way of thinking and you should pursue what you're wanting to pursue, you should contribute to that realm, is very important. Equally so, I also believe that not everybody is, I don't want to say cut out, appropriate for a university type education. Equally so, I don't believe in forcing people to get a college degree if they want to go in the trades. I really don't see the point of forcing people to attend college when they're not ready, when they don't want to, or when they have a career path where they truly do not need that level of education. It's something that I'll never understand, particularly about America. This kind of social pressure to get an associate's degree, even when you never plan to go into a field where you'll need it, right? And so I also believe in not getting an education if it's not right for you, but I'm somebody who very much needed education for my career path. I work as a multi-subject tutor. I work in education. I wanted to be a field botanist before my condition got too severe and I became an artist instead. I still love botany. I still want to do botanical illustrations and work in botany as much as I can from the stay-at-home standpoint I'm stuck in, right? That education was very important to me. You can't be a botanist without, at least not a botanist of the capacity. Well, you probably can't really be a botanist self-taught just because of how dangerous some plants can be. You can definitely be more or less safe doing like botany as a passion, but for actual kind of surveying, there are so many plants that look identical to each other. I don't know how much that would work, but that's irrelevant, right? So all of this kind of tangent aside, my MFA has been my best education experience so far. Truly, I was so ready to, I was kind of scared of the people I had to meet at first, honestly. I was like, are they gonna destroy me? I'm huge for getting critiqued by my professors, as long as it's done politely. I'm very happy to have my art kind of torn to shreds and kind of analyzed so that I can get better, I'm paying to have my art basically critiqued to push me to my limits artistically and get better. And if that's done politely, respectfully, and with good kind of criticism and recommendations on how to do that improvement, then that's a good critique, even if my art doesn't really come out of it alive, right? And so on the internet, don't do that. Please don't shred people's work unless they ask. Seriously, most people do not want to hear critique unless they explicitly say so, and most of the time, people don't care. But I don't care. You can critique my work as you please. Just always be respectful in the comments. But that aside, I've really met a lot of people who look at my art very differently and think that I have a skill set. And so I've kind of had the anxiety that y'all on YouTube have been like gassing me up and like praising my art and my skills more than I was like truly worth. But I think instead what it's been is that I was on Instagram for so long where engagement and interaction's a bit more toxic, and then I was in my undergrad where people were generally just not interested in my work. People were not really into being in a lot of the classes I was in. And a little bit more importantly, I had a lot of teachers who just didn't jive with my stuff. I had one really good art professor. The other one was an art history professor. And so the rest of my art professors, they were either kind of indifferent to me, they didn't really care, or the class didn't really allow for me to create anything that was authentic to myself, like life drawing. I draw a lot of people, but I don't draw a lot of just casually standing naked people doing literally nothing in hyper-realism, right? I'm really bad at life drawing, by the way. I suck at hyperrealism. I literally cannot do it. And so, kind of always was just anxious that you all on YouTube were seeing something there that I didn't really believe was real. But entering my MFA, where people are just so happy to see art and see creative processes, and I was accepted here because they like my work and they want to see me flourish. And, that's what an MFA is about. It's about you pretending to be a full-time artist, basically, and then getting critiqued, pushed to pursue art in the most authentic form for yourself, to try different things, to have guidance and support while you pursue art in a way you never would have thought to pursue art before, right? And so being surrounded by these people who are just so excited to see my art and my skills and are really just excited and expressing excitement to see what I create by the end of my terms, to see what I get to bring for them my next meeting with them. I'm realizing that YouTube has been right all along, and instead I've been letting other people's opinions of me and my work that weren't really for me kind of plague my actual perception of my work and what it's worth, right? I definitely was aware that my art appeals to people. I was aware that my art is something that people look up to and they like listening to me and they like my work, but I don't think I realized how authentic and honest it was because I had been spending so many years not confronted with people who like my work, right? So much of my art in my undergrad was just met with disinterest, and so I don't think I really realized that there was as big of an audience of people who are just excited to see art and see artists progress the way my undergraduate teachers didn't really care about. They wanted to see you acquire the skill, the standard that that project was setting, and not necessarily the creative voice behind it, And none of the stuff that I did in my undergrad for the teachers that didn't like my work, that weren't particularly great, none of that stuff had grade points set aside for actual creativity and pursuit of something more. It was about acquiring the skill, and I don't think I realized how much that component had tainted my perception of the value of my work, which has been really interesting to unpack the last 3 weeks, and I'm feeling like a real artist now. I know I have been one, and I know I've talked about it, but I think I would very easily come in and out of these mindsets where I don't actually believe it, even though I know it's true. And I'm feeling better now. I'm feeling like an artist again. And I'm excited to create. And I'm excited to fill the rest of the sketchbook before next week so I can give you a sketchbook tour for my 1-year upload anniversary happening next Saturday. So I'm super stoked for you guys to see this entire sketchbook finished next week. I'm stoked to show you guys all the work I want to create. I'm excited again. I've really liked my art in the last 2 videos, the painting and my Eurydice illustration, but now I'm really ready to dive in and create more work like those last 2 pieces that I loved. At the time, they felt like a fluke, okay, one good piece, the next one might not be that good. Now I'm ready to create horrible art and love it just as much as I love creating work that I'm proud of, right? So I'm very excited to say that my MFA has done something very good for me, and I look forward to keeping you guys updated. I have a formal full class critique in about 2 weeks, I think, so I'll let you know how my first 4-week residency went soon. So getting back to what I'm actually drawing in today's video. One of my biggest kind of anxieties about where these kind of flower drawings, these poppies, will be going in terms of the background is actually capturing a realistic coloring to them. I don't know how easy it is to tell when looking at photos online, so I will put a photo up on screen of one of my references, but the center of a poppy has a very purple kind of hue to it, and I'm very uncertain of how I want to go about approaching getting that vibrancy and that accuracy of color whilst also having a character portrait where I'm just nervous about it. And so I'm kind of spending a lot more time at this point in the sketchbook page trying to get an understanding of that center bit where the stamens and all of that are, all of the kind of center focus, right? The petals I understand enough at this point. I've gone over the overlap, I've played with it a little bit. I kind of understand that ratio, and I'm also a macro photographer when it comes to plants. So most of my photos are actually particularly up close. Even though these were taken with my iPhone, the up close look at the inside of a flower is what I find personally among the most interesting to look at. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about the reproductive component of a flower where I'm just like, wow, that's wild. And it's very interesting to see how that varies. So while I was going on my MFA rant, right, I did kind of do a little bit of a highlighter sketch trying to in like actually laying down the color. Making it more pink was about seeing really what happens when I make it a much lighter tone, more so than the actual color pink, right? Because poppies are actually a little bit more, well, the poppies I grow are a bit more on the orange end. I would still pursue a bit more of an orange, a red orange tone actually on the canvas, but seeing if it comes across and the contrast is nicer and the purple is more intense and noticeable if it's that lighter value, because that purple, if the light's not hitting it, does look more black, right? And so I wanted to see if the contrast really changed anything, and also those, I actually don't know what chemically causes it on a poppy now that I'm thinking about it, so I'll have to research that for my own curiosity, but the kind of black patterning that you sometimes see on those inner petals, that component also is a bit more black than the center, but also if I keep it consistent, does that help draw it in and make the purple stand out more? Does it make it less noticeable? So that was just a a mini experiment in kind of just seeing if those colors work together. Does pink and purple look good? Because, well, I've never seen a pink poppy before. This is art and I can do whatever I want, right? So that's an interesting mindset to actually like say out loud, even though I think I talk about it a lot. But it's not the most in-depth, but I think it's kind of cute. I really like the weird kind of highlighter splotchy thing going on. And then that those stamens are actually lacking color, so you can't really tell super well from far away, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cute. It just turned out that way. But with what I'm actually actively doing, I'm trying to figure out how to approach simplifying the center of the poppy. There are so many tiny reproductive components on a poppy. I'm talking like hundreds in the center, right? And so artistically, you don't, or not you, but I don't want to draw all of those. Most artists don't draw all of those or are even thinking about it. Instead, it's more so about how do you simplify the shape so it looks like there's hundreds of them, whilst you're not actually doing that much of the work. And so that's really the whole point of working on those kind of focal groups, right? Sitting down and forcing myself to sit and think about the close-up appearance of this poppy, figuring out how to simplify it now rather than when I'm actively painting, is something that I have to do for how I process information, right? I'm not equipped personally to figure out those types of things while I'm going and have a reliable or consistent outcome. I do kind of have a bit more of a requirement personally to actually like hand practice things before I go through the process of actively committing to them. I could theoretically do it in the painting. I do have a very carefree and kind of balls to the walls approach to painting, but it ends up being so many layers of me not knowing what I'm doing, and I don't think I'm experienced enough, because my last painting was my first real attempt at sitting down and painting, that I'm ready to do that type of experimentation on the 9x12 canvas with the gouache rather than the paint pens. Well, I definitely know I will be tapping out somewhere near the end and using them. I want to rely on the tube paint for as long as possible, right? So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to approach simplifying and how I want to achieve the contrast between it too, because the light's hitting it, but a lot of the actual stalks for the reproductive like balls on the end, right? Those stamen tips, right? A lot of those stalks don't even look like they're separate entities in the photo that I will be hopefully putting up somewhere on screen correctly. But oh, I bet that breath picked up really bad. I'm sorry. But actually sitting down and kind of figuring that out is going to be kind of important for me understanding. I did a mini practice in the bottom corner, so that's just the center bit. Not even the stamens, not even the kind of risen part it's standing on, just what that center looks like. And now I'm just doing a super quick sketch of those stamens and trying to figure out how to make the stalks look individual whilst connected, because they truly do not actually look like separate entities until you get to the end. They look like bunches, but if you're actually physically sitting there, you can peel them all apart separately, at least with the species I have in my yard. I have only ever actually dealt with the species of poppies that I grow, so I'm not entirely certain if they have any sort of connective capacity in other species. I probably shouldn't say that with so much confidence, but that's okay. So, poppies aside, I have this other flower that I'm just particularly fond of. I am not the person who planted it, and I'm not entirely 100% exactly what species it is off the top of my head. I'm not confident to the actual name. So, it should just be some form of purple calla lily. I'm pretty confident it's literally just a purple calla lily, but I'm not entirely sure how many species of that there are, if there's only one or multiple. I'd have to go through the Jepson manual. I tend not to trust Google when it comes to how many species of a plant there are, just because there's, 10,000 different species in the sunflower family, and a ton of them are just very slightly minutely different sunflowers. It's a mess. Asteraceae is one of the absolute biggest families of plants. It's chaotic, and I don't trust anything Google has to say in terms of how many there are of each particular generally similar looking plant. I'd have to go through it physically. I also don't know if this is a real plant that exists or something that has been bred to exist, so I don't know, but it's just a purple calla lily for the sake of the process. And one thing that I know that I'm particularly bad at is achieving a kind of good, not perfectly curved line. That's not a good way of articulating it, but no plant is ever a perfect circle, right? Or a perfectly curved petal. There's always those waves to them. There's always going to be a bit more personality. They're not going to be perfectly smooth on the edge. And something that I really struggle with is capturing that according to a reference. If I'm not looking and I'm not thinking, I can do it really well. But I'm trying to capture the shape to match a reference at least a little bit. It's almost like all of my intelligence just goes out the window. Everything I know about how to translate a picture to real life just evaporates from my brain. I literally cannot comprehend it. And so, calla lilies are one of those things that I'm just horrible at. They have a curveness to them, a curveness? That's fine, we'll go with it. Whilst also having a shape that I can't really cut out from a circle, right? I can't make a big circle and then shape it out how I need it to because it has that more triangular component to it. And so I thought this would be a really fun little moment for me to really sit down and actually do some practice in general of how I want to hatch flowers. It also has a borderline near black, if not black, center to it in the photo. It's a very deep plant. And so in that, it also kind of opens up, how do I want to hatch it? How do I want to approach actually ensuring that it's getting the coloration and the sense of depth that I'm hoping to portray? And so that's kind of my point in going over the kind of purple calla lily. It's actually, I think, going to be my favorite sketch from the page. So when we get to that point, I would really love to know your thoughts for sure. Jekyll is not only back to make drawing even more difficult in the video, but he is also back into my room whilst I am recording the voiceover, and he just sat on his sister's head. Why? Because he's a chunky boy and she is small. He's just a total asshole. Just absolutely, as soon as he sees where he wants to sleep, that is where he will sleep, and he will sit on anybody that gets in the way. So Fizgig is breaking her neck trying to use him as a pillow. But yeah, so I did have to stop recording. Jekyll was sniff-snuffing my camera too much, and I had to take a break to rub his belly and call him a stinky baby because he's gross and he eats wet cat food like a toddler eating cake. Literally had to go baby wipe his face. So I did have to not show as much Jekyll as would be desirable, but it's fine. And when I returned to the purple calla lily, I kind of realized that I really wasn't thinking about the veins of the flowers as much, and how they're kind of like contour lines. So you can kind of see when you're looking at the petals themselves, they have little darker veins that kind of run through the entirety of the petal, and those are obviously going to be flowing with the actual curve of the petal. So like when they're folding over, it's gonna follow that fold. And I never really thought about how beneficial that would be as a form of contour lines before, and how that kind of helps to guide creating the kind of sense of three-dimensionality to the flowers. So that was really kind of fun to have that revelation. I've been drawing flowers for how long, and I never thought about contour lines, I think. Yeah. I think the last time I thought about contour lines, I was 14 in that community college art class that was super not fun. As a chronically ill person, I was working on the floor, the table was too high, I couldn't use the easel. None of the techniques worked for me because my mobility was limited, and my teacher just thought I was a complaining brat child who didn't want to do the work. Bad experience. But I remember the project we did where we had to draw our hands at a ton of different angles and then use contour lines to indicate that our fingers were three-dimensional. And we weren't allowed to look at the hands. We weren't allowed to look at the paper while we were drawing the hands. And so I just have this page somewhere in my house that is the most unhinged, bizarre, cartoon, globular nonsense covered in really shaky contour lines. And I don't know why that one particular drawing assignment can't leave my brain, but sometimes I'll just be drawing a hand and I'll picture it and I'll be like, oh God, that thing is somewhere in my house. It's like when you have a creepy old doll that your grandma gave you when you were young and you're just like, oh, I can't get rid of it. I'm obligated to keep it. And I know it's a good show of changes in life, but damn is it ugly and damn do I hate it. But yeah, I don't know why that brought that back to me, but it definitely was fun. It definitely got me thinking about all the things I hate in life. um, but no, more seriously, contour lines are really beneficial. I usually cover them with shading and hatching, and so I don't know why I never really thought to use them more, because they are creating that 3 dimension. So I was going to hatch over them in basically every place and location I would have used them anyway. I don't know why I didn't think, oh, I'll put this here and then hatch over it later for the sense of depth, I felt really stupid being as far into this process in life as I am and only kind of thinking about it now. But it definitely made the process of drawing flowers a lot easier for me, at least flowers of this nature where they come up, right? They curve towards you and then back away when they kind of fall over themselves. I realize I'm a visual communicator. And so oftentimes when I'm explaining things, I am pointing at my computer screen and I am showing you guys with my fingers what I am talking about. And you can't tell. So if you are confused and I am not making sense, do let me know in the comments and I will create a visual demonstration of me trying to explain me not being intelligent, right? So, not very good at communicating. I'm not unintelligent. I'm just bad at talking, right? That's how we praise ourselves on the internet, right? But speaking of praise on the internet, that was a great segue. I use Threads a little bit because I was never a Twitter person, and so Threads came along and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And I comment on it more than I do other places. That'll fall off soon. I've just been having fun engaging with artists over there, but it's not really a platform for me. But YouTube creators on social media is such a praise simulator, and they're great. I didn't know YouTube creators with a specific social media account as opposed to normal YouTube. But like, if you do YouTube stuff, bro, YouTube creators is gonna praise the hell out of you. I'm just seeing posts from them that are like, create what you love and the audience will follow. We love your passion. Go have fun today. I'm like, dang, YouTube creators are really giving me daily affirmations. And I didn't even have to ask. Kind of really appreciate it. It's really, really fun to be on a platform like YouTube where not only is my community wonderful, you guys are wonderful to get to engage with, and the people who stop by from here to here, comment, and don't actually stick around, they've always been really wonderful and really respectful as well. If you're one of those people, you're also really lovely. I haven't had any particularly bad treatment on YouTube from commenters or anything. It's very odd after being on every other social media but YouTube prior to this, where you just have generally really lovely people. I don't know why, but YouTube is just such a much nicer corner of the internet. So, you all are really lovely, but also to have the YouTube creators account that's just being like, we appreciate you and everything you do and have fun getting creative is also really rewarding. It feels good to have a platform that also values you and isn't scraping your content for AI. Yay! The bare minimum standard for good treatment of your creators, right? I don't know. It just feels so lovely to have a platform that's not on fire right now. And there are just times where I'm really sitting down, I'm like, should I just move permanently to YouTube just to get away from whatever is happening everywhere else on the internet? I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious to see where the rest of the internet's going if more people than just the art community are leaving Instagram. I don't know if I've mentioned this. I am not fully leaving Instagram, but I will be posting less and I will be putting my name on everything very, very largely. I've archived a lot of my favorite art because I didn't put signatures on them. And so I don't really know what to do about that. But if you follow me on Instagram, I will be moderately less active and I will be more so just posting to stories and less my actual main feed. but if you ever feel like I've evaporated, I'm just creating art and petting my cats. If you're following me on Instagram and don't check YouTube regularly, if I don't post for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm vibing and forgot about Instagram, but I will be back. I am fine. But YouTube, if I don't post for a week and you don't get a notification, I'm in a natural disaster or something. I don't know. I'm probably just camping, but that's not a funny joke, but I probably am just camping. So I don't know. It's definitely an interesting time and place to be on the internet, and I'm very interested to see where the legislation goes with this. I don't even remember what I was talking about before I started talking about YouTube creators and how they're nice on social media. This is why I need a script. Let me know if you think I need a script or if you like my unhinged ramblings. I made a poll about it once and people were like, nah, girl, pop off. We love when you talk pure, unadulterated nonsense. But obviously only the people who are like really, really into me are going to click on my polls. So, for a more general audience, let me know if I need to shut up. That's not funny. Okay, I've laughed, I've fooled around, I've talked absolute nonsense for a few minutes, and now the calla lily is finally starting to come together in terms of where it's at finally. And I had not obviously, I don't know how many people look at calla lilies, but from a top-down view, you don't see the stalk of a calla lily. And so I didn't like how it felt not having any context around it. You wouldn't see the stem, so I couldn't add that. And so I just started adding some of the grass and kind of other natural components that were in the area. I don't really clean up my plant area, so there's a lot of random leaves and plants that are kind of more like weeds and stuff around, so not all of this is calla lily itself, but plants, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't really be existing in complete isolation, and they are at their most attractive when they're outside and doing plant things outside. I do have some indoor plants. I'm not fond of them particularly. I kind of prefer plants to be doing plant things outside. So, grass, leaves of other plants in the background. It's all just kind of nice, There's something that I particularly enjoy about getting close to a plant and kind of just enjoying how it exists within the context of everything else. It's just artistic and real life equivalency of go touch some grass for me, Like, I live in the mountains. I obviously touch grass a lot. But getting to sit down during spring when the flowers are just kind of cropping up, especially the plants that I literally never replant, they just come back every year. Getting to just go outside and appreciate them and be like, dang, you have, as a plant that just grows here and does your thing every year, have definitely been here and lived here longer than me. And that's something that I very much enjoy about nature, and particularly having a property and living somewhere where you can have plants as an artist. Being able to go outside and go sit with plants and their plant life stuff is very rewarding. I think that I'm very interested in artists who do more sci-fi and kind of construction, architecture-based art. I'm very interested in where they stand on this. But as someone who draws people and also plants, I have this kind of idea in my head, at least, that I think a lot of artists who kind of draw plants and stuff and do traditional work have a kind of inherent enjoyment that comes from being in touch with nature as opposed to perhaps other jobs. And I feel like that applies to digital artists as well. I just don't know if it's as portable as a traditional medium, but there's just something so soothing and cathartic about going outside and just drawing plants, and just going outside and drawing with plants. Being in nature leaning against a tree or something, just doing your stuff, right? And so, that's something that I've kind of always wondered if it's a real thing or if it's just my kind of affinity for plants in general. But I don't know, there's just something so intrinsic to me about the relationship between art and kind of nature, particularly untouched, civilized nature. And I don't know, there's just something about it where I've always kind of just felt like they're one in the same, or they have some sort of intrinsic connection to them that really makes the engagement and the experiencing of them kind of a similar kind of feeling of home and kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I guess home would be the way of articulating it. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about being able to go outside and participate in just touching grass that's very rewarding. But maybe I just sound like an internet nut, or a boomer. I don't know. Do millennials say go touch grass too, or no? I don't know. I don't know. I'm definitely too young to be a millennial, I think. But I don't know. I very much value nature, and I feel like it's largely important to balancing my art. Being inside all day, at least with a chronic illness, is not great for my mental health. Being able to go outside and um, feel like I'm participating in society, even though there is no society aside from the plants outside and the animals, it helps to feel like I'm functioning. So perhaps it's more of a chronic illness thing than an artist thing. It's honestly a bit hard for me to tell, to be completely serious, but I very much enjoy it. So I guess with that being said, I'm very interested in other people's perspectives on the matter. I guess I'm interested in everyone's perspectives on literally everything that exists, but when it comes down to it, I just find it really interesting, and I like to know other people's thoughts on my artistic process as opposed to their artistic process. Do you just sit inside all day, hole up in a dark dungeon room and crank out illustrations, or do you kind of enjoy taking things slow and going outside for walks, drawing on the trail, people watching? I've always wanted to do the whole drawing in a cafe thing one day, but I don't have any artist friends to do that with in real life. I also live like an hour and a half from the nearest cafe, and I think 2 hours from the nearest, like, good cafe. That was mean. Actually, maybe there aren't any cafes an hour and a half away aside from Starbucks, and I drink my coffee black with no milk and sugar, so I don't think that really counts. So maybe I am 2 hours from the nearest cafe. But I've always been really interested in that kind of slow art life kind of feeling, where you go and create art in the real world and you connect without actually really connecting, right? You connect with people through drawing them, but you don't really actually engage with them. You don't have to participate in conversation or experience any of those kind of social engagement obligations that I find so undesirable and often intimidating when it comes to the actual kind of art creation process, right? And that's something that I'm very interested in knowing if other people do, and how common that really is, or if that's kind of an idealized social media thing. I don't go outside enough to know how real that type of stuff actually is, right? Which feels weird to say and ask. I almost unironically started this audio clip talking about the next and final flower by saying it was baby beard instead of like bearded tongue, which I would have been bullied to hell by my stepbrother for. But penstemon or penistemon or penstemen, I don't know. Botanists don't know, and none of us care. None of us care, to be honest. But penstemon, or bearded tongue, is a flower that makes me want to smash my head onto a wall. I don't know what it is about plants that kind of have those longer bottom petals. They're not actually petals, and I'm totally blanking. It's like it's like a leaf. It's a modified leaf to look like a petal or something like that. a lot of the time, but there's just something about plants that have petals that are substantially larger and kind of move out and beyond that really confuse my brain in trying to understand how to get those shapes down. Because they're supposed to be kind of in my head when I'm conceptualizing them, they're supposed to be one cohesive unit, right? However, they're almost two completely separate things overlapping, and I need to be able to treat them as separate. Otherwise, I will convince myself that they're all the same. Because when I do my basic shapes and I make something bigger or is in that background, I think of it as in the background. However, when it comes to these bigger petals and something that's kind of underlaying, sometimes they have different curves to them and stuff that the basic shape doesn't actually convey. And so my brain is like, oh, I just shade it like I would any back petal. And then it's like, no, that actually has a weird curvature to it. It's a completely different thing. It's also a different toned color, and I didn't capture it correctly. And that's something that I just have an issue with for some reason. I don't know what it is. I don't really feel like pen stem and bearded tongue vibes with me. It's a very, very beautiful inflorescence, though. I love flowers, bro. I got a degree in plants for literally nothing. I'm an artist. I got a degree in plants for literally nothing. But, they're very beautiful, but I think this is the roughest drawing of the set, the one that I'm working on right now. I don't think I really captured the heart of the pen stem in particularly well, but I don't know. It's something I really need to work on a bit more, and I think what I need to do is I need to start from that front-facing version of it, figure out how they overlap from a direct head-on sort of way, and then start working on 3/4, halves, and then maybe a behind version so that I can kind of get a better understanding and go through the process of thinking about it in the kind of 3-dimensional landscape in a way that just kind of hits my brain a little bit better and more effectively. I'm not sure. So ultimately, I am planning to experiment a fair bit more with my art, hopefully in July and August. I want to try some more new mediums, right? I'm trying paint now. I really want to try oil pastels because they don't feel like normal pastels. Pastels are off the books for me. The texture makes my neuropathy flare. I don't know what it is, but it irritates me beyond all living hell. But I want to try oil pastels, and I want to try new mediums, and I want to really get creative and create some quote-unquote bad art in the pursuit of creating better art. And so if you guys are interested in seeing that, let me know. I'm sure some of it will end up on the channel regardless, but if you guys aren't interested in watching the process of failing and continuing to try a new medium until I get there, I understand that. And I also create art outside of and off of the screen. Not as much as I probably should, but I will be doing it more. So I just really can't wait to see where things go for me. Sorry, that was really exasperated and confused. I'm just so excited to honestly get back to making art. I do love the voiceover part. I do like talking to you guys, but like, I really want to go make some thumbnails for those paintings I mentioned and see what happens. So yeah, I'll probably post those on my community tab sometime soon. They're gonna be messy, junky thumbnails per usual, but I'm really excited. I feel very alive right now. My health has been down, but like mentally and artistically I feel very alive. So that's really a game changer for me recently. But ultimately, these flowers were a very freeing experience, and it felt really good to just sit back and create a sketchbook spread that kind of follows my kind of old vibe. Not old vibe, this has always been my vibe, but just kind of like gets out of my head for a little bit and do something familiar but fun, right? And I'm practicing with intention. So if you liked these flowers, or I would really like to know if you have a favorite. So if you have a favorite, let me know which one down below. But thank you for sitting all the way through this video, for listening to me talk about art and flowers and my MFA and all of my shenanigans. Thanks for appreciating Jekyll. I know you guys love the cats. So with that being said, thank you so much. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike, comment if you have anything to say, subscribe if you would like to see any more of my content in the future, or follow the rest of my artistic journey from now into the infinite distant future until my inevitable death in some decades from now. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And with that being said, bye-bye!